All right. So we have started with our discussion on diuretic agents. I have already defined this now. When you say diuretic agents, these are chemical substances. These are drugs that can increase our urine output, the volume of the urine. Okay? And then if we say natriuretic, we concentrate in the excretion of sodium via the urine also. And then I think we ended here with the nephron. So I hope you are familiar now with the different parts of the nephron. So si nephron ha is our basic filtering unit ng mga kidneys natin. And we have the following parts. We have here the glomerulus, where we start our filtration. However, the functioning of the glomerulus is influenced by your age, or if ever there is the presence of concomitant diseases, just like if a person has problem with the kidneys kasi sira na talaga, or kung may mga problema sa heart. Okay? And then, magfi-filter siya, tapos waste will be collected and it will go to the proximal convoluted tubule and then to the loop of Henle. And then after that, the distal convoluted tubule here. And then we have the collecting duct. After the collecting duct, urine will be stored in the urinary bladder for excretion. Right? So please take note ha that we can reabsorb sodium, although we can also reabsorb the chloride and the water there, but let's concentrate sa sodium class. We can reabsorb sodium sa proximal convoluted tubule, but the most amount of sodium na ma-reabsorb is dito class sa ating loop of Henle. Okay? And then, may mga sodium din na ma-reabsorb sa distal convoluted tubule as well as sa collecting duct. Okay? So, isa-isahin natin yung mga drugs, yung mga diuretic agents that act on the different parts of the nephron, starting with the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Ito yung pangalan ng grupo natin ha, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So, itong carbonic anhydrase, from the name itself, you will know na this one is an enzyme. And this enzyme is present in our kidneys, in our nephrons. Specifically, marami ito sa proximal convoluted tubule. Alright? Therefore, since marami yung carbonic anhydrase na enzyme sa PCT, doon din mag-a-act yung ating mga drugs, carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. So ano ba ang trabaho ng carbonic anhydrase? Next slide muna ako, habalikan ko lang yung nasa baba ng previous slide. So ito yung illustration ng trabaho ng carbonic anhydrase inside the nephron, specifically in the proximal convoluted tubule. So we have parts here. Meron ditong lumen for the urine kasi pupunta na siya sa urine, no? And then we have here inside the proximal convoluted tubule, and then we have the blood here. So, as you can see, saan ba tayo magsa-start? We can start with the urine kasi let's talk about reabsorption. We have here the following ions. We have here the bicarbonate ion plus the hydrogen ion. So supposedly, when these two are present in our urine, syempre they will have chemical reaction forming this carbonic acid. I hope I can see it sa screen. No? Wait lang, let me get my pen. Yan, dito na tayo class. Ma-form yung ating carbonic acid. Now, class, andito yung action first ni carbonic anhydrase. Andyan siya. Okay? Okay, so si carbonic anhydrase, ang gagawin niya, if there is the presence of the carbonic acid, ihihiwalay niya yan. Okay, madedecompose yung ating carbonic acid. And once decomposed, ang magiging products niyan, we have water and carbon dioxide. And these water and carbon dioxide are, they are able to cross the membrane of the nephrons. So, pwede siyang pumasok doon sa proximal convoluted tubule. Na pag napasok na siya dyan, silang dalawa ha, carbon dioxide and water, the same enzyme class na pumutol kanina kay carbonic acid, yun din yung enzyme class na magdudugtong sa kanila. Okay, so kanina the process is decomposition, i-decompose natin decomposition. But the decompose si carbonic acid, this time naman is synthesis. Okay? So, synthesis because we are going to make a larger molecule from the two, water and carbon dioxide. So, again, makukuha natin ulit yung ating carbonic acid, but this time, this is inside the nephron. Right? Now, inside the nephron class, mag-undergo yan siya ng ionization or ito yung tinatawag natin na dissociation. Pag sinabi kong dissociation or ionization, this one is the decomposition of a compound resulting to the formation of ions. Okay? Ions na magkaiba yung charge or opposite yung charge. That is why meron kang positively charged hydrogen dyan. Actually, babalik lang siya sa kanyang original form no, na ions. And then we have the bicarbonate. So that is a cycle. And we have one enzyme that works in that cycle. Okay? So, si carbonic anhydrase, siya yung magde-decompose kay carbonic acid in the urine ha. Pero once nakapasok na yung water and carbon dioxide inside that tubule, babalik pa rin siya sa carbonic acid. And then si carbonic acid yung magde-decompose. Pwede mag-off ka. Okay, sige. Alright? So, ano mangyayari ngayon? Kung inside the proximal convoluted tubule class, naging ions na naman ito. Andito na naman si hydrogen and si bicarbonate ion. Magkakaroon ito ng exchange, as you can see on this part here. If there is the presence of hydrogen ion inside the proximal convoluted tubule, makikipag-exchange siya doon sa sodium na supposedly nasa urine na kailangan na dapat siyang i-excrete. Okay? So, during the time na nakastore pa siya, there will be exchange of the hydrogen ion and the sodium ion. So, papasok dito si sodium class. Lalabas na naman si hydrogen ion wherein cycle ulit. Okay? Until dadami yung sodium mo inside the proximal convoluted tubule, meron tayong tinatawag na sodium-potassium ATPase. This one is a pump, but this time, ang ka-exchange na ni sodium, si potassium na. Okay, so kailangan ng ATP, kaya siya tinatawag na ATPase. Meaning, kailangan ng energy before mag-exchange si sodium and si potassium. But this time, the exchange class will not happen between the tubule and yung lumen for the urine. The exchange will happen sa tubule and the blood na syempre dumadaan sa kidneys. So, ang mangyayari nito, with the help of ATP, sodium will go back to the blood while the potassium will be exchanged, no? Siya yung mapupunta sa proximal convoluted tubule. So, this process is called reabsorption. Reabsorption ha, kasi supposedly nanggaling si sodium dito sa lumen. Saman to. Saman to, Josh.
Sorry, ma'am.
Okay lang. Ayan, I hope nasundan yan ha, nasundan yan. Natanggaling si sodium dito, class, sa ating urine and then napunta siya balik sa blood. Okay, so that is the work of the carbonic anhydrase. Now, ano mangyayari pag nabalik yung sodium sa ating blood? Remember, I told you kung nasaan si sodium, susunod si water. And because si sodium ay nasa blood, and then susunod si water, ang mangyayari niya, syempre tataas ang volume ng blood. And if tataas ang volume ng blood, that means tataas yung blood pressure. Kaya nga, meron tayong carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. In this illustration, merong nakalagay na slash, no? Meaning, ini-inhibit natin yung carbonic anhydrase para yung carbonic acid in the urine will remain as carbonic acid, hindi siya magdi-dissociate. And pag hindi siya nag-dissociate, hindi siya nag-decompose, I mean, hindi siya makakapasok dito sa proximal convoluted tubule. Wala ding mag-a-act na carbonic anhydrase forming again the carbonic acid. Tapos, syempre, since walang carbonic acid, walang magdi-dissociate class. Wala kang mabubuong hydrogen ion dyan. And because wala ito, wala ding ka-exchange si sodium. Therefore, sodium will remain in the urine and then to be excreted na siya after. Okay? So, since nasa urine siya, ang sodium, hindi siya marere-absorb kasi nga, ininhibit natin yung carbonic anhydrase, susunod si water doon. And dadami yung volume ng urine. Okay? So, yan yung medyo complicated na activity ng ating carbonic anhydrase. Any question or clarification? That is the activity of the carbonic anhydrase. It can be seen in the proximal convoluted tubule. Ha? Marami siya doon. But actually, we can see carbonic anhydrase in other parts of the body. Like sa ating mata. Meron tayong carbonic anhydrase class sa ating mata, which is involved in the production also of the bicarbonate ion dyan sa mata natin. And the bicarbonate ion is used to make our fluid sa mata. Okay? Yung ating, ang tawag sa fluid natin sa mata? Anyone? Siguro pa kung ilong. Yes, Myrtle?
Aqueous humor po, ma'am.
Okay, okay, use humor. So, ang mangyayari dyan sa mata, so, ang mangyayari dyan sa mata class, pag marami kang bicarbonate ion, it will lead to the increase in the amount of the aqueous humor. Pag dumami yung aqueous humor, that's the fluid sa mata, tataas yung intraocular pressure. So, pag tataas ang intraocular pressure, this may lead to the condition called glaucoma. So, meron din tayong mga carbonic anhydrase inhibitors na ginagamit for this condition. Kasi, pag pinigilan natin yung carbonic anhydrase na enzyme sa mata, syempre, malilimit din yung pag-form ng bicarbonate ion. So, bababa yung amount ng aqueous humor, hindi tataas yung intraocular pressure, mapipigilan natin ito. Right? Madami ko nang i-annotate dyan. Can I delete the writing sa screen now? Wala. Ay, pwede na. Dali ka. Tingon kiko tayo sa Right. So, let me clear the writing sa screen. So, another thing that you need to take note about carbonic anhydrase inhibitors na mga diuretics natin, their structure is derived from sulfonamides. You're done with your organic medicinal chemistry, no? Doon natin pinag-aaralan itong structure ng sulfonamides. And I hope you can still remember, class, from the name itself, yung structure nito, it contains sulfur. And because it contains sulfur, syempre meron yan siyang restrictions for use. And at the same time, meron siyang additional na like side effect. Okay? Later, we'll talk about that. Ano yung significance kapag nilalagay na yung drug is derived from sulfonamides. Okay? So, ano yung mga examples ng ating carbonic anhydrase inhibitors? We have here the first one. This is the prototype drug sa lahat ng KAIS. We have the acetazolamide, the brand name na available sa market. Yung ating unang drug is the Diamox. Okay? But aside from that, we also have the bridzolamide and dorzolamide. We can easily identify the KAIS sa kanilang name, no? They end with zolamide. Acetazolamide, bridzolamide, and dorzolamide. But these two are used for glaucoma. So, nilalagay topically, meaning pinapatulo sa mata for glaucoma. Sinabi ko nga kanina, 'di ba? In this illustration, this take place no sa kidneys. But the same enzyme, carbonic anhydrase, is also present sa mata for the production of bicarbonate ions inside, and that bicarbonate ions are used to make the aqueous humor. So, sabi ko, pag dadami ang aqueous humor, it might increase also the intraocular pressure leading to glaucoma. So, let's inhibit the carbonic anhydrase para hindi tumaas yung intraocular pressure. In the urine naman, acetazolamide can be used for that. It will inhibit the carbonic anhydrase. That's the same thing. Pinipigilan nito yung pagkabuo ng bicarbonate ion as well as yung hydrogen ion naka-exchange ni sodium. Kasi pag na-exchange si sodium, madiretso-diretso na yan from the urine sa proximal convoluted tubule and then mapupunta siya sa blood. So doon naman siya sa blood, magkakaroon ng osmosis, susunod si water, dadami yung blood volume, and it might lead to the increase sa blood pressure ng ating patient. So pinipigilan natin. Kaya nga, KAIS, carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. So what will be the effect if you're going to administer this sa patient? There will be, syempre, reduction in the reabsorption of the bicarbonate ion in the kidneys. So supposedly, di ba, the bicarbonate is originally in the urine, but then because of the action of the carbonic anhydrase, magiging water and carbon dioxide siya, yun yung makakapasok inside. So since pipigilan natin, the bicarbonate ion will remain in the urine. But this is self-limiting na diuresis ha, kasi kung gaano lang kadami yung bicarbonate ion sa urine natin, yun lang din yung kaya niyang mapigilan. So kung ubos na yung bicarbonate ion mo sa urine, parang mai-inhibit doon. So stop na yung diuresis. Okay, so self-limited yung diuresis niya. And this may cause hyperchloremic metabolic acidosis na there will be reduction of the body pH. Bakit? Kasi nga, bicarbonate ion will remain in the urine and then ma-excrete na siya. Okay? So, ang tendency, bababa yung pH ng ating body. And then, these may reduce intraocular pressure. I have told you about this already a while ago. Bakit? Kasi nga, yung ating carbonic anhydrase ay makikita din sa mga mata natin. Though marami siya dun sa PCT, sa proximal convoluted tubule, pero present pa rin siya sa ibang body parts. So, saan natin binibigay yung ating carbonic anhydrase inhibitors? We have here the glaucoma. And then, these can also be used to alkalinize our urine para maging basic yung ating urine. Bakit? Mag-stay si bicarbonate ion dyan. So, tataas yung pH ng urine. Now, this can also be used for people experiencing metabolic alkalosis. Alkalosis means mataas ang body pH. So, sabi ko kanina, since you are going to excrete the bicarbonate ion, hindi siya ma-absorb, ang tendency, bababa yung pH ng body. Okay? So, kung ang person is experiencing alkalosis, mataas ang pH, pwede mong gamitin si carbonic anhydrase, pampababa. Okay? Pampababa ng pH. And then, I'll talk about mountain sickness later. Ito muna tayo, edema with alkalosis. So, edema means accumulation of water, especially if may partner siya na alkalosis, pwede natin gamitin si carbonic anhydrase kasi nga pampaihi siya. So, yung mga na-accumulate na tubig, ilalabas. And then, pwedeng bumaba yung pH neto. Now, bakit gamit ito sa acute mountain sickness? Ano ba ibig sabihin nitong acute mountain sickness? Ito, nai-experience ito ng mga mountain climbing, ganun. Yung kapag rapid masyado yung pag-ascent nila, like above 3,000 meters, ang first nilang ma-experience because of the change in everything, no, change in pressure, change sa altitude, they may experience weakness, dizziness, insomnia, headache, and nausea. Okay? So, yung mga mountain travelers natin. In serious cases kasi, pag hindi nila naagapan ito, this may lead to, since because of the change in pressure, it will push out the fluid sa body, and then mapupunta siya dun sa lungs causing pulmonary edema. Yung iba naman, the change in the pressure will push the water sa brain, and then dun siya mag-accumulate, leading to cerebral edema. So, nakakamatay din. Kaya yung kapag mahilig ka pag mountain climbing, hindi din pwede na wala kang proper training for that. Kasi hindi pwedeng mabilis masyado yung pag-ascent natin above this, itong 3,000 meters. Okay, so pwedeng mag-experience ka ng pulmonary or cerebral edema. So, binibigay natin yung carbonic anhydrase inhibitors dito to get rid of the accumulated water. Okay? So, yun yung kanyang purpose. Bakit kasama si acute mountain sickness dito sa listahan ng ating clinical applications for the KAIS. Okay? So, let's talk about toxicity. Yung metabolic acidosis may become a toxicity because there will be a depletion of our bicarbonate stores in the body. Since hindi na siya marireabsorb, pipigilan na kasi natin, di ba, through the inhibition of the carbonic anhydrase enzyme, makukulangan ngayon yung body ng ating bicarbonate ion. So, since bicarbonate ion plus, kasi siya, di ba, sa biochem ninyo, kasama siya doon sa buffer system natin, and pag nawala yan, there will be imbalance. So, ang mangyayari, bababa yung pH ng body, leading to metabolic acidosis. And then, renal stones class. Bakit merong renal stones dito? Kasi calcium is not soluble kapag the pH of the urine is alkaline. So, please take note of that. Actually, this is not just applicable for the urine. Calcium will never be dissolved if your solvent or the solution, the environment is alkaline. Pero in the case of the urine, since, di ba, pipigilan natin yung pag-absorb ng bicarbonate ion, so magsistay siya dun sa urine, ang mangyayari, tataas yung pH ng urine, magiging alkaline siya. So, if merong kasamang calcium, yung nandoon sa urine mo, mag-solidify siya kasi diyan siya soluble. So, pag nag-solidify siya, it may lead to the formation of renal stone. So, yan yung problema natin sa paggamit ng carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. And this may also lead to the formation of ammonia, and this will be problem if the person is cirrhotic. So, magkakaroon ng hyperammonia, right? And then this has renal potassium wasting also kasi aside sa pinapalabas yung sodium, pinapalabas yung bicarbonate ions, kasama na doon si potassium. So, there will be potassium wasting na instead na gagamitin pa natin siya, pwede pa sana siyang ma-reabsorb, malalabas siya sa body. And I believe you know kung anong mangyayari sa person kung makukulangan ng potassium. Potassium is a very important ion, especially for muscle function. And then remember that our heart is a muscle. So the heart may be affected also if there is renal potassium wasting. Okay, any question sa ating KAIS, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors? Baka may gusto kayong itanong. Sabdan ni or balikan nato ni. No, if wala na siya nasabtan. So kung tatanungin ko kayo, class, syempre mahilig ko mag-quiz og mechanism of action, no? Unsay mechanism of action karon sa atong guys? From the name itself, they inhibit, syempre, the carbonic anhydrase. Yan talaga yung kanyang mechanism of action. Yung mga depletion of the bicarbonate ions, effect na yon ng pag-inhibit ng carbonic anhydrase. But please take note, we need to be specific here. Since we are talking about diuretic agents, I want you to know kung saang part ng nephron mag-a-act yung diuretic agent. So please complete this. They inhibit the carbonic anhydrase enzyme in the proximal convoluted tubule. We have to be specific. Diyan kasi marami si carbonic anhydrase. So, syempre, diyan din siya mag-a-act sa PCT. That's the mechanism of action of our carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Right? So, if you don't have question, let us move on to another group of diuretics. This time, we have the loop diuretics, which are considered high-ceiling diuretics, which means pag gamitin mo siya, as it mag-i-increase yung volume ng urine and masyadong marami yung iihi ng ating patient. Okay? Now, mechanism of action, itong first dito na nasa bullet, ito yung MOA ng loop diuretics. Ito yung MOA, ha? They selectively inhibit sodium chloride reabsorption in the thick ascending limb. Dagdagan natin siya. Thick ascending limb of the loop of Henle. Okay? So, dyan siya nag-a-act sa loop of Henle. To be specific, the thick ascending, yung pataas na part, it's a thicker part compared sa pababa. And then, dun kasi nangyayari yung pinakamaraming reabsorption ni sodium, especially the sodium chloride actually. No? So, i-inhibit yan. Pag uminom ka ng loop diuretics, inhibit yan. Pipigilan niya ngayon yung pag-reabsorb ni sodium and ni chloride. So, hindi na siya mababalik dun sa blood. Mag-stay siya sa urine. Okay? And then, pag nag-stay siya sa urine, syempre, sabi ko, kung saan si sodium, susunod si water. Therefore, pag sumunod si water, mag-i-increase na yung urine volume ng patient natin. So, ano yung mga loop diuretics natin? We have two prototype drugs here kasi dalawang klase din yung ating loop diuretics. We have the furosemide. Ito yung pinaka-common sa community. Our brand name for this is Lasix. Brand name ito, ha? Lasix. That's not Lasix, ha? That's Lasix. They called it Lasix because the effect will last for 6 hours. So, kaya Lasix. Okay, and then we have the ethacrynic acid. Okay, so bakit nahiwalay sila? Ay, hindi ko pala nasabi yung ano, no? I was reminded with the sulfonamide. Hindi ko pala siya nilagay kasi dito sa listahan ng toxicity. Palihog-dugang class. It can cause, since it's a sulfonamide derivative, it can cause SJS or other skin condition. Yung sulfur kasi, number one, bawal yan sa mga may G6PD. So, hindi mo pwedeng ibigay yung sulfonamide kasi may sulfur siya. Huwag mo siya ibigay sa may patients, sa mga patients na may G6PD kung samot class ang ilahang hemolytic anemia because of the presence of sulfur. Yun ang problema sa mga may G6PD, di ba? Nag-hemolyze yung kanilang red blood cells. Now, aside from that, sulfur is very mainit sa katawan. And then, magmamanifest yan siya sa skin. Yung problema natin kapag very severe na yung kaniyang skin reactions, di lang siya matawag na skin allergy, mauwi siya sa SJS, that's Steven-Johnson syndrome. Ano ba mangyayari sa person na may Steven-Johnson syndrome? Have you seen someone with SJS? Or have you heard about SJS? Na-mention ba yan sa inyo sa inyong orgmen? Hindi ako yung teacher sa orgmen na sure. Kaya na ko wala nagtutug orgmen. Kasi mag SJS orgmen class. Hindi yung internet. Wala mo. Muslim na to. Although you can Google there. Dahil good na ninyong himuhon din ha. For the sake of our discussion. Okay. Anyway, Steven-Johnson syndrome class is actually an allergic reaction. It is life-threatening. It may be caused by an infection or a medication. And yung problem dyan, bakit siya life-threatening? Kasi it can lead to the death of the cells dyan sa skin. Right? And then, ito yung magiging mukha. This one. So, it's a skin reaction. Can you see that? Paano no? Pangit siguro na siguro na to nihan pag-live. So, it may cause skin rashes since allergic reaction naman siya. And then, ito yung early stage. And then, middle stage ng rash. And then, ma-distribute siya all over the body. May mga dark red spots and blisters ka dyan. So, all over the body ha, which means kasama yung mata, kasama yung loob ng mouth, kasama even yung genitals class. So, because of that sulfur in the medication, yun yung nagko-cause ng death of the epidermis. So, magkakaroon ng necrosis na mamatay. Kaya ito, Steven-Johnson syndrome, or we also call this the toxic epidermal necrolysis. Kasi mamamatay talaga yung cells natin dyan sa skin. And it's life-threatening. Remember na mamatay no yung skin dyan. Natin buksan yung. Ako na lang tanaw din ha sa mga kanang actual picture sa sa patient. Kasi namahaw mo ng uban din sa inyo, para sa ning mga naka-turn off sa camera, kasi nagapamahaw ni sila karon pa. Ipakita na to sa screen. So, kung natanaw ha sa Google na Google din ha. Sa inawong sa tao nga na Steven-Johnson syndrome. Okay? Basig maluod na mga nag-account din ha. Nag-off na og camera kay nagkungit-kungit na din sana all. Okay? Sige. Now, Ganon ako siya naalala kasi hindi lang Kai's class, yung carbonic anhydrase inhibitors ang sulfonamide derivatives. We also have loop diuretics that are sulfonamide derivatives. Therefore, may sulfur din ito sa kanila. structure. And then therefore, this can also cause allergic reactions. The most severe one is the SJS, the Steven-Johnson syndrome. So sa sulfonamide derivatives, our prototype, yung pinakaunang drug natin, si furosemide. So nasabi ko na kanina, no, this is Lasix, yung pinaka-common. Although we have, syempre, lots of brands in the market. And then we have bumetanide and the torsemide. And then we have here the phenoxyacetic acid derivative. Ito, wala itong sulfur sa kanyang structure. Okay? The ethacrynic acid. However, we cannot see ethacrynic acid in the market anymore. This has been withdrawn kasi kahit na wala itong sulfur sa structure class. This is a notorious drug that causes renal disease. So, pampaihi siya pero nasisira niya kasi yung kidneys. It's a very powerful diuretic to the extent na masisira yung kidneys ng ating patient. So, this has been withdrawn from the market. You cannot see phenoxyacetic acid. Marami sa market, furosemide. Okay? So, ano nga ulit yung mechanism of action? Inhibition of the sodium chloride na lang. Pwede na nating i-simplify. Inhibition of the sodium chloride reabsorption, but you have to be specific in the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. Okay? Ito kasi yung transporter, the sodium-potassium chloride transporter, ito yung mag-e-exchange sa sodium chloride as well as the potassium. Wherein si sodium mapupunta balik sa blood. Yan yung pangalan ng transporter. Nga ions kasi ito, so their movement will be active transport. So, hindi ito passive na mag-pass through lang sa cell membrane. So, since active transport, it requires energy and syempre, it requires a transporter. Ito yung transporter niyan. So, what will be the effect, class, kung iinom ang ating patient ng loop diuretics? There will be marked increase of the sodium chloride excretion. Marked increase talaga ha. Madami kasi talaga yung maiihi nito. Sodium chloride will remain in the urine and thus water will follow. So, dadami yung ihi. And then there is also potassium wasting here just like the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. Bakit may potassium wasting? Kasi di ba yung ka-exchange ni sodium chloride sa transporter niya, from the name of the transporter itself, sodium-potassium chloride transporter. Dalawang chloride dyan. Okay. So, si potassium yung ka-exchange niya. Alright? And then, there will be some potassium wasting kasi meron din namang potassium dyan na nasa urine na daan. So, walay movement na mahitabo. Potassium will remain in the urine and then ma-excrete din siya. And then, there is hypokalemic metabolic alkalosis because of the increase also of the excretion ng potassium. Makulangan ng potassium yung body class. Pwedeng bababa yung bababa yung potassium sa body tapos ang tendency tataas yung pH. Yan yung mangyayari dyan. Hypokalemic metabolic alkalosis. And aside sa sodium chloride na ma-excrete as well as potassium na ma-excrete, we all know class yung urine, hindi lang yan purely water. So meron dyang mga minerals natin. So there will also be increase in the calcium and magnesium excretion. Okay? Again, via the urine pa rin. So para saan natin ginagamit yung ating mga loop diuretics? Diuretic man siya, pampaihi. Therefore, ginamit natin siya sa mga edematous conditions, yung mga may accumulation of water in the different parts of the body. So we have pulmonary edema, kung sa lungs, 'di ba? Minsan may naririnig kayong patient na nagtapok daw ang tubig sa lungs. Pwede nating bigyan ng diuretics yan to get rid of the accumulated fluid. As well as yung mga nag-e-experience ng peripheral edema. So ito silang dalawa, pwede itong ma-experience ng taong may heart condition. Bakit? Kasi 'di ba pag sinabing heart failure, Ano ba ang nag-fail ang heart sa kanyang function. So, ano ba ang function ng heart? Siyempre, mag-pump ng blood. Tapos, ang mangyayari kasi sa person na may heart failure, syempre, hihina yung kanyang functioning. Hindi siya masyadong nakaka-pump ng blood. So, ang tendency, there will be a problem in the circulation. Hihina din yung pag-circulate ng blood sa body. Pag mahina kasi ang pag-circulate ng blood, mapupush out yung fluid. Yung tubig na nasa blood class, pag hindi yan siya efficient ang kanyang circulation, mapupush out yan siya doon sa tissues. Okay? So, pag na-push out yan siya doon sa tissues, for example, sa paa, na lumabas yung mga fluid from the blood kasi hindi na siya nakakaakyat. Mahina na yung circulation, na siya nga mag-edema na ang person. Makikita kayong yung tao, malaki yung paa niya, pero yung laman, hindi siya fats, instead water. Okay? Peripheral, under yun siya sa peripheral edema. Yung iba naman sa kamay, yung iba sa tiyan, peripheral pa rin yun. Or yung iba, even sa mukha class, dito banda sa may eye bags lapit, pwede din mag-accumulate ng water. Sa pulmonary edema, syempre dumadaan yung blood sa lungs, 'di ba? We all know that. Paano ba yung circulation ng ating dugo, 'di ba? Heart, anak na lang plus hangkay. Hindi natin complicate atong life. So, ano lang, ang pathway lang ng ating blood, ganito lang naman. Dagdagan natin. Sige, so from the body, pag na-use up na lahat ng oxygen, syempre babalik siya sa blood. So, dadaan yung blood sa veins. Veins carry the oxygenated blood. And then, papasok siya dyan sa ating heart. So, papasok siya first sa right side, specifically sa right atrium, tapos pupunta yan siya dito sa baba, right ventricle. Tapos, pag mag-contract ang heart class, pupunta yan siya yung blood na nasa right ventricle, pupunta yan siya sa lungs. So, doon yan siya magkakaroon ulit ng oxygen. So, kapag mahina yung circulation, mahina yung pumping, pwedeng ma-push out din yung fluid ng blood na nasa lungs. Kaya pwedeng mag-experience ng pulmonary edema. Tapos, pag after sa lungs, pag naging oxygenated yan siya, babalik yan siya dito sa left atrium first, dito sa taas. Tapos, pupunta sa left ventricle. And then, after sa left ventricle, pag nagko-contract yung ating heart, pupunta na yan siya sa aorta, which is our biggest blood vessel. And then, from the aorta, dito na yan siya. Babalik yung blood sa ating body. Okay, so yung type of blood vessel naman na mag-carry this time, oxygenated blood na siya kasi galing na siya sa lungs, meron na siyang kasamang oxygen, yung mga arteries naman ang magdadala niyan. Okay, so pupunta na naman sa body and the body will use up the oxygen. Yan yung ating pathway ng dugo. So again, kung may problema ka dyan sa circulation, hindi efficient yung flow, kasi mahina ang functioning ng heart, magpupush out yung pressure kasi mag-push ng fluid from the blood going to the tissues. Kaya merong edema. Okay? And then, we can also use this for people with hypertension. Bakit natin ibibigay sa mga taong may hypertension? Kasi pampaihi ito. Ini-excrete natin yung sodium as well as yung water, leading to the decrease also of this sa blood. So, bababa. And then, bababa yung blood volume. And you all know, pag bumaba yung blood volume, that means there will also be decrease in the blood pressure. Wild na pero gusto mo sulod. I don't know if you can hear that sa background. Wild na pero. Okay. Sige, any question or clarification? Wala. Sure mo. Madali pumangutan. Kasi nabutan na. So, saan pa natin ina-apply itong ating loop diuretic? Sabi ko kanina, it can also increase, aside from excrete si sodium chloride, si water, There is also excretion of the potassium as well as the calcium and magnesium. Therefore, if a person is suffering from too much calcium in the body, especially in the blood, no, we call that hypercalcemia. Or if the person is experiencing hyperkalemia, masyadong maraming potassium, we can also use this to get rid of the potassium, excess na potassium and calcium. And then we can also use this for acute renal failure. Pag sinabing acute renal failure ka na, bigla lang ha. And then short term lang ito na ano, na pagkasira ng kidneys. Okay? Na this time kasi yung mga taong biglang nag renal failure class, hindi yan sila makakain. So we can use this one pampaihi nila. And this will also be used for an ion overdose. So, hindi lang kasi mga cations itong pinagsusulat ko dito, no? Calcium, magnesium, positive 2. And then this one is also positive 2. Mga cations ito. Pero take note that, remember, chlorine is an ion. And then aside from the chlorine, yung mga sulfate, phosphate, even yung bicarbonate natin sa body, they are considered anions. They are negatively charged. And nasa urine din natin yan sila. Therefore, pag pinaihi natin yung patient natin, masasama sila sa urine. Okay? So, kung masyadong marami yung chlorine, nag-hypochloremia na yung patient, or marami masyadong mga phosphate sa body yung ating patient class, we can give this para malabas siya sa body. Okay? So, minsan, yung mga may mga kidney diseases, since inefficient na yung pag-function ng kanilang kidneys, sila yung maraming anions sa body. These are considered kapag masyadong maraming anions class or even the cations, they are considered toxic sa body. Kaya pinapaihi natin ang patient natin to get rid of those materials or those ions. Now, toxicity, ano yung problema natin sa ating loop diuretics? This is a very powerful drug, no, in terms sa pag-increase sa urine output. And because it's a powerful drug, it can cause ototoxicity. Ano ibig sabihin ng ototoxicity? Yes, Pisangga.
Ano ma'am, drug-induced damage sa inner ear
Okay,
causing, yun.
tama. It can cause damage sa inner ear causing pagkabungol sa ato ang patient. Now, this can also cause hypovolemia. Syempre, di ba, pinapaihi natin ang patient natin. So, bumababa yung volume, volume ng blood, yung problema kapag ka nasobrahan, mag-hypovolemic shock na ang patient. And then, there is also potassium wasting here. Syempre, nilalabas din natin ang potassium. This may also cause hyperuricemia. Hindi kasi na-excrete dito yung ating uric acid. Tapos, ang tendency, magstay siya sa blood class, ang uric acid. Kaya, pansinin nyo, I don't know if you have observed this, no? If you know someone na may hypertension or may heart failure, tapos umiinom class ng loop diuretics, so usually furosemide yan siya. Ano kaya nilag inom o furosemide class, kada magpalab sila, no? Papansin nyo dyan, mag-i-increase yung uric acid. Okay? Tapos, ang tendency, mag-polypharmacy na siya lalo. Kasi may drug pa siya for hypertension, meron pa siyang diuretics. Tapos, kay nitaas man ang iyahang uric acid, padugangan iyahang tambal. So, hatagan na po o pampababa sa uric acid. Ito yun. Kasi hindi siya nasasali sa pagka-excrete. So, dumadami siya sa blood. Nag-hyperuricemia. Anong condition kapag mataas ang uric acid ng person? Ano mangyayari dito? Yes, yes, Andre.
It may lead to gout, ma'am.
Okay, tama. We have here gout or we call that gouty arthritis. So, mataas yung uric acid and nasa blood yan siya. Syempre, nagsa-circulate ang blood. Nadadala yung uric acid sa different parts sa body, including the joints, and dun yan siya mag-accumulate as crystals So, for example, sa kamay, pag-accumulate siya dyan, yung mga crystals na yan. Kaya kung nakikita niyo yung person na may gout, lalaki yung mga parts sa joints, meaning may gout, ay may uric acid nang na-deposit. Okay? And then, ano pa? Since nalalabas din yung magnesium, this may also cause hypomagnesemia. So, kokonte yung magnesium sa body. Ito sila, mga ions ito sa body, no? They are very important. They are present, pero hindi pwedeng bumaba ang level. Hindi din pwedeng marami masyado. So, we have to keep these ions at a normal level. Kasi, for example, like this one, hypomagnesemia, talagang may effect yan siya sa body. Si magnesium, kasama siya doon sa action ng mga, tawag dyan, yung muscle functions natin. So, pag bababa yan, magkakaproblema din tayo with our functioning. And then, bakit may allergic reactions na nakalagay here? Kasi remember, meron tayong sulfonamide derivatives. Yung tatlo, the furosemide, the bumetanide, and the torsemide, they are sulfonamide derivatives, thus they can cause allergic reactions. And then, pag hindi naagapan to the extent, pwedeng mag-cause siya ng, Stephen Johnson syndrome. Yun yung pinaka, niya, life-threatening na effect. Okay? Questions or clarifications? Wala. Ako dito ha, masig manubra ko sa time. Break na later. Wala. May pumunta na. Sige, let's move on to the thiazide diuretics. So, ikatatlo na niha. We have the Kais, the loop diuretics, and then we have the thiazide diuretics. Ito yung mechanism of action class ng ating thiazide diuretics. We have inhibition still of the sodium chloride transport or sodium chloride reabsorption. But this time, it's on the different part of the nephron. We have here the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. Doon siya mag-a-act. Kasi may nangyayari din doon na reabsorption ng sodium natin. Pero hindi masyadong marami yung reabsorption doon if i-compare natin sa loop of Henle. So, mas powerful pa rin yung ating loop diuretic. So, ano yung pinakaunang drug under this category, under this classification? It's the HCTZ, hydrochlorothiazide. Actually, this is a very common drug in the community. Kapag mag-duty na kayo next year, no? Makikita niyo ito. Marami ito sa community. Usually combined with other antihypertensive drugs. Meron tayong losartan plus HCTZ, combination drug siya. Or meron ding amlodipine plus HCTZ. So, minsan HCTZ na lang kasi ang nilalagay nila. That's hydrochlorothiazide. Now, this is also a derivative of sulfonamide. So, the same thing. Galing pa sa Kai, pwedeng mag-cause ng allergic reactions or even Stephen Johnson syndrome. Now, unlike the other categories, other classification, kani daghan ni. So, daghan ang inyuhang i-familiarize. Itong kagayin na sakay, tulo man to kabuok, acetazolamide, brinzolamide, dorzolamide. Yung sa loop diuretics, 4 lang. We have the sulfonamide derivatives, furosemide, the bumetanide and torsemide, and then we have the ethacrylic acid. But this time, for thiazide diuretics, parang marami ito. Although, some of them, yung names nila end with thiazide. So, that's the time we can easily identify them. So, just like bendroflumetazide, no, ito, wala lang siya thiazide. But anyway, that's a hint sa inyo ha, that it is an thiazide diuretics. So, we have chlorothiazide. Identify natin yung mga nag-end dyan sa thiazide. Siyempre, the hydrochlorothiazide. Esidrix yung brand kung solo drug lang siya, single drug. And then we have methylclothiazide, polythiazide, and trichloromethiazide. So, yun yung mga nag-end sa thiazide. Kung hindi naman siya nag-end sa thiazide, eto, but almost thiazide pa rin, but it can end with talidone, or azone, metolazone, kinethazone, and then yung pinakaiba lang talaga ng name sa kanila is this indapamide. It is available sa market, yung brand niya Lozol. Okay, indapamide lang yung iba. Iba talaga yung name, yung ending. Yeah. But anyway, please be familiar. These are our thiazide diuretics. They can be found sa market also. Hindi lang siya HCTZ. You can even find indapamide in the market. And dire-reseta din yan siya ng mga physician. So again, ano yung mechanism of action nito? Inhibition of the sodium chloride reabsorption in the distal convoluted tubule. So yung transporter ang ini-inhibit para hindi siya ma-reabsorb. So, ano yung magiging effect? Take note of the word modest. Kanina sa loop diuretics nakalagay, marked increase sa sodium chloride excretion. Ito modest lang. There is still NaCl excretion pero hindi kagaya sa ating loop diuretics. There is still potassium wasting here. Thus, it may cause hypokalemic metabolic alkalosis. But, there is decreased urine calcium here. So, kabaliktaran sila ni loop diuretics. Kanina si loop diuretics, ma-excrete din ang calcium and magnesium. This time, sa thiazide diuretics, hindi kasama si calcium class na ma-excrete dito. Okay? Ma-excrete yung sodium chloride pero si calcium will be reabsorbed here. Baliktad sila ni loop diuretics. So, if we're going to look at the toxicity of our thiazide diuretics, ito yun. Meron tayong mnemonics, G for glycemia, G for glycemia, L for lipidemia, U for uricemia, and then C for, take note of this, hypercalcemia. Kasi di ba hindi kasama si calcium sa na-excrete. Hindi siya kasama. Yeah, Lisod, no? Inom ka. Ito yung binibigay usually class sa mga merong hypertension and heart failure. Hindi usually automatic furosemide. Mas marami ang ginagamitan netong ating thiazide diuretics kasi hindi siya mauwi into dehydration kasi modest lang naman na pag-increase sa urine output. Kaya lang ito yung mga problema natin. Kung for example, hypertension lang yung problema ng ating patient, tapos long ang kanyang exposure, example sa HCTC, sa sunod, makita na nimo sa iyang lab results, taas na iyang sugar, taas na iyang lipids. These are all effects of the of the drug. Taas na iyang uric acid. Unya, madugangan na ang iyang tampal. Syempre, bigyan mo siya ng gamot para sa mataas niya na sugar, sa mataas na lipids, as well as sa mataas na uric acid. Ang ending na daghan ng sakit sa atuang patient. So, that is the reason why na although we call them maintenance drugs, no? Pero kung titingnan nyo talaga, yung sinusulat lang ng doktor sa prescription, pinakamatagal na ang 3 months, no? 3 months, 30 times 3. 4 months. Kaya minsan may mga doktor na nagsusulat ng 120 tabs yung nasa reseta nila. Kaya lang itong problema sa mga patients sa community, hindi sila bumabalik sa doktor nila. Once na fulfill na filled na yung prescription, nabili na nila yung 120 kabuok nga tablet, wala na. Himo na nila maintenance forever. Wala na sila nibalik sa doktor. So in that case, walay proper monitoring. Walay proper monitoring kung effective pa ba yung gamot nila sa kanila, na normalize ba or na-maintain ba talaga, na-regulate ba talaga yung kanilang blood pressure, for example. Tapos hindi na na-check, baka nagkaroon na ng harmful effects yung drug sa kanila. Like for example, tumaas na yung kanilang sugar, the lipid, or the uric acid. So once ma-pharmacist na kayo, encourage them to go back to their physicians for proper monitoring. And then encourage them to do to have laboratory tests also. Kasi mahirap. Wala kasi tayong drug na walang adverse effects, walang side effects, walang toxicity. Meron talaga yan. Just like this one. The HCTZ is a very helpful drug sa mga may hypertension, may heart failure, pero syempre, kasama nun, may side effects talaga. Right? Diyan pa rin yung allergic reactions ha, kasi sulfonamide derivative pa rin ito. Merong hyponatremia. Hypo means mababa na sodium sa blood. Siyempre kasi ini-excrete natin yung sodium when we increase the urine. And then, nasabi ko na ito kanina, hypokalemic metabolic alkalosis. Pag mababa yung potassium natin sa blood class, tumataas yung pH. Kasama kasi siya dyan sa nag-work sa pag-maintain ng pH natin. Okay? So, any question pa before tayo mag-move on sa potassium diuretics? We are almost done. After the potassium diuretics, we only have one left na group of diuretics, the osmotic diuretics. Pila na to kabuo? Kais, loop, the thiazide, and then this is the fourth one, the potassium sparing diuretics. Potassium sparing, ha? Kasi kanina ko pa sinasabi, from the Kais, silang lahat may potassium wasting. So instead, gamitin mo pa yung potassium inside the body, nasasali siya doon sa ini-excrete via the urine. Therefore, naghanap sila ng something that can still increase the urine volume of the patient but can spare the potassium. So, magsistay si potassium inside. Kaya meron tayong potassium sparing diuretics. So, actually, yung action neto, they inhibit the sodium chloride reabsorption in the collecting duct. Pero actually, dalawa. Pwede siyang sa late distal na convoluted tubule, dun na sa late na part, going na sa collecting duct. Or we call that the cortical collecting tubules. And meron siyang aldosterone na activity. I'll talk about aldosterone later. Pero, this can prevent potassium secretion. Okay? So, magsistay si potassium inside. Hindi siya nasasali doon sa na-excrete. So, we have here the seat. Apat sila. Spironolactone. The brand name is aldactone. Meron tayo combination drug nito with HCTZ. The aldazide. The spironolactone. Lactone plus HCTZ. May combination drug silang dalawa. Pwede din ito ibigay sa patient. The brand name is aldazide kasi that's supposedly aldactone but with the HCTZ, so they call it aldazide. And then we have eplerenone, amiloride, and triamterene. But sa apat na ito yung pinaka-common, si spironolactone. Okay, yan yung pinaka-common na potassium sparing diuretic. So ano yung Ano yung mechanism of action? Actually, dalawa ang mechanism of action nila. Apat kasi sila, di ba? Let's group them together. Under sila sa potassium-sparing diuretics, pero dalawang mechanism of action din ito. So, ang mag-partner dyan, si spironolactone and si eplerenone. You can see that sa ending sa kanilang name, no? And then, we have amiloride and triamterene. That's the, partnering. So, for spironolactone and eplerenone, pwede siyang antagonism of the mineralocorticoid receptors, specifically the aldosterone receptors. Kaya, itong dalawa na ito, we also call them, aside from being under the potassium-sparing diuretics, we also classify them as aldosterone antagonists. Okay? Kasi mag-i-inhibit sila ng receptor niyang aldosterone na yan. Aldosterone class ha is a mineralocorticoid. So ano ba yung work ng aldosterone? Last week, we have discussed na ang trabaho ni aldosterone is for sodium and water retention. Kapag ka ito na-release from the adrenal gland, the adrenal cortex of the adrenal gland, pag nag-bind yan siya sa receptor niya, ang trabaho niya talaga is pinapastay niya sa body yung sodium. And then, syempre, susunod si water. And then, hindi mo sila ma-excrete. Okay? So, ma-retain sila inside sa body. So, kapag ka nag-administer tayo sa patient natin ng spironolactone and eplerenone, the binding of aldosterone in its receptor will be inhibited. Okay, ma-inhibit yan. And then therefore, there will be no sodium and water retention. Mai-excrete natin si sodium as well as si water. But please take note ha, sodium and water ito. Anong mangyayari? There will be sparing of potassium. So, ma-spare yung ating potassium. It will remain inside the body. Okay, this is a beneficial effect na compared to the other classifications of diuretic agents. May potassium wasting sa kanila. Dito, potassium sparing siya. Okay? So, what will be the effects? There will be reduction in the sodium retention na sabi ko na kanina. And at the same time, there will be reduction in the potassium wasting in the body. Although, yung aldosterone antagonism activity niya, hindi masyadong na-explain until now, especially yung effect niya sa heart and sa blood vessels. Sa kidneys, diretso na yon. Na-inhibit yung receptor. Kung sa hearts and sa blood vessel, hindi masyadong na-explain until now. Okay? So, clinical applications ng ating spironolactone and eplerenone, since they have the ability to inhibit the aldosterone, pwede mo siyang ibigay sa aldosteronism. Yung mga tao class na may problema, may overproduction sa adrenal gland ng aldosterone. And then, pwede natin siyang ibigay for people who are experiencing hypokalemia due to the use of other diuretic agents. Kaya, minsan, hindi na hinihintay class na mag-potassium wasting na mag-hypokalemia na ang patient, minsan binibigay na ito in combination. Kaya nga, sinabi ko kanina, may combination drug tayo with HCTZ and spironolactone. The purpose there is to prevent potassium wasting due to HCTZ. Okay? And then, binibigay din ito for people who experienced myocardial infarction. So, after the myocardial infarction, binibigay siya to prevent aldosterone, to prevent water and sodium retention. Now, what's the toxicity? Syempre, hyperkalemia. Nadami na masyado yung potassium inside the body. Sinahitabo sa imong class kung nag-hypokalemia ka o nag-hyperkalemia. Ano nangyayari sa iyo? Hindi mo baksan. Ulat ko sa inyo answer, be. Sige. Recite mo. Pwede bitaw mo mag-google din, ha? Anyone? Doon muna tayo sa hypokalemia. Siyempre, pag hypokalemia, yes, Claire. Discuss na. Pero, sige, go, Claire.
Pag
Ha?
hypokalemia po, pag hypo po, ma'am, low blood potassium po, ay bale, low po yung potassium sa blood, and then pag hyper, taas. So, meron po siyang serious electrolyte imbalance po if meron kang, either of the two.
Okay. Sige, tama yan siya. Pag hypo, mababa. Pag hyper, mataas. And then please take note, ano ba ang gamit ni potassium sa body? You want to add something, Shane? You're raising your hand? Aray.
Okay na, ma'am.
Ay, okay na? Cassandra, you want to add something?
Sinabi mo kanina, ma'am, yung calcium, ma'am, yung potassium, ma'am, is related siya sa muscle function. So, yun po, possible po yung muscle weakness, ma'am.
Mm-mm. So kapag ka nag-hypokalemia ang patient class, makikita mo yun sa functioning din ng muscles nila. Kasi very important na ion yung potassium sa muscle functioning. Makikita mo they have muscle weakness, they have fatigue, madalas nagma-muscle cramps sila. And then, because kulang ang potassium, magkakaroon ng problem with the heart, they may experience palpitations kasi naiiba yung kasama kasi si potassium doon sa heartbeat na functioning. So, since nawala siya, pwedeng mag-experience ng arrhythmia ang patient. Arrhythmia means irregular heartbeat. Okay? Si hyperkalemia naman, there is increased potassium in the blood. Siyempre, affected pa rin ang muscle functioning. Pero the effect will be yung pag mag-twitch ang muscle, kaya daghan man kayo siya, so magsige siya og contract. O di ba pag nag-muscle twitching ka, like for example, na-experience yun, like sa mata or sa face ninyo, that means nagsigig contract ang imuhang muscles. So that may be experienced by the person with hyperkalemia also. Yung problema niyan, since marami masyado, pwedeng mag-experience ng chest pain yung patient. Pwede din naman mag-experience ng severe weakness kay nagsikontract ang muscle, kadugayan mag-fatigue na ang atuang patient. And then may effect siya sa heart. Syempre, remember the heart is a muscle. Yes, Mr. Villaver, are you raising your hand?
Ma'am, nakoy question, ma'am ba? Link ba ang hyper or hypokalemia sa Bell's palsy po, ma'am, kay muscle weakness man po siya tapos sa ang kana ang hyperkalemia po, ma'am, is mahitabo po mag-paralysis po ang tao po, ma'am.
Bell's palsy. Katong maparalyze ang one half sa ilahang face.
Yes
Dayon.
po, ma'am.
But that is more on ang cause niyan is actually until now mahirap siyang i-explain. But that is somewhat related to stress. So because of the stress experienced by a person, nag-iiba yung functioning ng mga nerve cells kaya siya napaparalyze. Okay? So I have not read a literature that directly relates the potassium to the Bell's palsy so far. But maybe, wala pa siguro ko kabasa. But let's see kung meron tayong mabasa so far. But so far kasi talaga it's more on the functioning of the nerve cells. Kasi yung sa potassium is more on the muscles, no? Though may effect pa rin naman siya sa nerve cells. Pero maybe, wala lang ko kabasa siguro. Okay, let's see daw. Cause of Bell's palsy. Let's try kung meron pa. Cause of Bell's palsy. Inflammation and swelling of the facial nerve. while the exact trigger is unknown. Usually, medical experts link it to viral infections. Walang conditions. Immune system response, viral and bacterial, underlying health conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity. Oh, wala. Wala. So, wala talaga. Tama, wala talaga ako nakita na direct na relationship between the potassium and the Bell's palsy. So, the Bell's palsy is more on stress. Although, a lot of physicians would link that one to viral infection. Okay. Nerve jud na siya basta Bell's palsy. I knew someone nga nag-Bell's palsy no during that time nga stress kay siya sa iyang life. May problem siya with the family kay kanang nag-ano iyahang husband, syempre. Sitaw ka kanang nangabit ba? Niya nag-Bell's palsy siya. So, stress related yung sa kanya. Unsa man magsugod sakit ilang nawong din ha magsugod sakit ang ilahang one half sa ilahang face and then pagkaugma ana or even pagkapila ka oras wala na na-paralyze na so ang binibigay sa kanila binibigay corticosteroids, they are given corticosteroids and then therapy dayon. So, maayo ang Bell's palsy. Kaya lang, meron talagang like, we call it, bakas ng Bell's palsy sa mukha. Although, hindi talaga siya totally babalik sa kanyang dating functioning. Makikita mo pa rin yung effect ng Bell's palsy. Okay, anything else? Asa na ba ko? Rin ako no? Clinical applications. So, next na, toxicity ng ating potassium-sparing diuretics, specifically the spironolactone and eplerenone. We have hyperkalemia. And then this is a board exam question. Paborito kayo nila sa board exam class. This is for spironolactone only ha. Yung kanyang activity sa aldosterone, meron siyang effect doon sa sa hormone ng tao. Remember, yung adrenal gland, yung nire-release niyan, mineralocorticoids, glucocorticoids, as well as the sex hormones. So, naapektuhan, since the activity is more on the adrenal gland, naapektuhan even yung sex hormones. Kaya, yung mga nagtitake ng spironolactone, minsan nag-gynecomastia. Siyempre, this is for male, ha? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng gynecomastia? Yes, Miss Tabagay.
Enlargement of fern po, like yung sa breast tissue ng males.
Okay. So, sa mga lalaki, kapag long ang kanilang exposure class sa spironolactone, they may experience this one, mag-increase ilahang breast size. Right? We call that gynecomastia. Itong problema ani class kay sahay isa lang kabuok na breast ang kudako. O dili siya pantay. So, wag niyo itong gamitin ha na kanang pampadako sa breast. Kung mga babae, wala pila mga babae, mga lalaki lang ang nag-gynecomastia. Okay? Yung mga members of the LGBT, hindi ito yung iniinom nila ha, talagang hormones yun, estrogen and estrogen derivative. Kasi pag umiinom sila, dumadami yung kanilang female hormone, and then syempre, diba, that hormone, the estrogen, is responsible for our secondary female characteristics, and that include our increase in the breast size. Yan yung ininom nila. Wag ito ha, hindi ito pwede ha, kasi ma-dehydrate itong pasyente ni dako yung tutoy, isa lang pa jud. Tapos na-dehydrate na siya pagkahuman, kaya sige magpaihion sa tambal. Okay? So, mahimo lagi na siya niya og toxicity. Okay? Any question or clarification? Okay? Any question or clarification? So kung vasopressin and desmopressin, wag mo siyang ibigay dito sa nephrogenic ha. Kasi normal man ang pag-produce nito ng ADH. Kidneys ang may problema. So dun tayo maggamot. Dito lang natin ibibigay si vasopressin and desmopressin sa may central diabetes insipidus kasi nga the problem is the pituitary gland. Hindi siya nagre-release ng antidiuretic hormone. Sige. So, excuse me, kung meron tayong antidiuretic hormone para sa CDI, meron din tayong antagonist class. We have the antidiuretic hormone antagonist, which we use for CHF, the congestive heart failure, and sa mga merong SIAD. SIAD ang tawag yan ha. Syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion. That's the meaning of SIAD. Kasi yung problema dito, baliktad. Baliktad siya sa central diabetes insipidus na wala nag-release ang pituitary gland og ADH. This time, ang pituitary gland kas magsigig produce og antidiuretic hormone. Kaya, i-antagonize natin. Okay? Or sa CHF kasi hindi natin gusto sa may congestive heart failure yung water retention talaga. So, inhibit natin ang antidiuretic hormone para iihi yung patient. Okay? So, ano itong antagonist natin sa ADH? We have the conivaptan. The brand name is Vaprisol. Ano siya? Receptor siya. Inhibitor siya sa receptor ng ADH. So, we call that the V1A and the V2 ADH receptors. So, hindi niya pinipigilan si pituitary gland na mag-produce ng ADH. Instead, mapoproduce pa rin yun, yung hormone na yun, pero hindi siya makakabind sa receptors niya. Okay? So, kung hindi siya nakabind sa receptor, hindi yun siya magte-take ng effect. So, ang effect nun, it will reduce water reabsorption and increase plasma sodium concentration. Ang ending, para siya sa may hyponatremia kasi ang pipigilan lang kasi pag sinabing antidiuretic hormone, the action is on the water. So, wala siya masyadong effect sa sodium. So, iihi yung patient, pero it's most likely the water na nasa urine talaga. And then, sodium will be left inside. Okay? So, kaya treatment siya sa mga taong merong hyponatremia. Yung kulang ng sodium sa body. Paihi ang patient, iiwan yung sodium. And nasabi ko na kanina, this may be used also for people with SIAD, syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion. Right? So, toxicity nito, class, the conivaptan is parenterally given and it has reactions sa infusion site. It may have skin reactions or even yung problem nga sa blood vessels. Pwede siyang mag-cause ng necrosis, mamamatay yung blood vessels. And then, pwede siyang mag-lead into nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, nasisira class yung kidneys. Kasi diba, ang pipigilan niya, hindi ang pituitary gland, instead yung kidneys, yung receptors found in our kidneys yung pipigilan niya. And it may lead again to nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. Masisira yung kidneys. So, hindi na siya magiging sensitive sa activity ng ADH. And thus, we have the renal failure. Anong gamot natin for nephrogenic diabetes insipidus? I think I have skipped this one. Nasa last slide ata, pero parang hindi ko naalalang sinabi ko ito. The thiazide diuretics class are used for NDI. Mechanism of action, it's still unknown. Diba, we find it ironic na sigig ihi ang patient. Sa mga NDI, di ba magsige siya ihi? Kasi nga, hindi sensitive ang kidneys sa action ni ADH. Niya, ang atong tambal kay thiazide, which is also a diuretic agent. So, for some unknown reason, pag ang person may NDI, tapos binigyan mo ng thiazide, hindi na siya iihi. So, nawawala yung activity ng NDI, the nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, tapos nawawala din yung diuretic effect ni thiazide. Pero until now, it's the thiazide diuretics na ginagamit for the management of NDI. Thiazide diuretics. Okay, and then lastly, which is also a board exam question class, the demeclocycline, brand name niyang declomycin ha, kalimutan ko lagyan ng R. So just like conivaptan, this is also an antagonist of the antidiuretic hormone. So sa receptor pa rin, pero bakit siya naging board exam question? Kasi demeclocycline is a family of tetracycline. So meaning, this one is supposedly a tetracycline antibiotic, pero for some reason, it has the ability to bind. Kung titingnan natin yung molecular docking nito, it has the ability to bind sa ADH receptor. And it's an antagonist. Okay, antagonist siya. Okay? So, yun lang naman ang board exam question niya. Ano daw, antibiotic na pwedeng ibigay sa sa antidiuretic hormone. That's the end. Any question or clarification? Signa mo'y gusto ipangutana. Pangutana na mo. Sa oras na, 11:22. Still have more than 30 minutes. Yes, Shaina.
Yung sa recitation, good ma'am. Same lang last week.
Same lang.
Mag-message siya yun.
Sa
Okay po.
inbox. Sa inbox ng Schoology. Man mo makapatatak sa inyong index card. Manta magkita, no? Wapa dyan tayo laboratory. This may be my last subject sa inyo, ha? Except for the research too. Kasi last year, hindi ako ang teacher nila sa review. So, si Ma'am Eureka ilahang teacher sa review. Online ilahang review kaning last batch. Ang problema lang may ato ilahang online class kay wala sila nakamove on sa PharmCal. Gikan sa prelim hangtod sa PharmCal lang tanan ng istoryahan. Wala sila nakamove on. So, I don't know. Kaya wala man si Eureka karong SEM sa school. Depende pa. Kung ibalik nila sa kuha ang review, okay lang po. Kung daghan kog time. Mas ko kog time. Wait lang. Balik like chapter 70. Busy lang ko last time kasi nag-turnover ako ng everything sa research office. Dili na. Siyempre, di ba I told you, dili na ako research director. Busy ko last time. Tapos, ang office pa dyan dito sa school, himog admin. Isod kaayo mangita sa mga papel-papel, magsagol ang mga papel sa admin ug sa research office. Pero ikaw na lang, ma'am. Let's see kung mag-review ba ta sa second sem. Pangit kay kung background ay wako'y matumra kong aswang. Sa ba na uy? Buta ako good akong mata nag mabother ko. Mabother ko kay murag aswang. Sa Di na. Dili mo gud magtarong akong background do. Ano na siya? Ano ba si Ma'am Cherry ka na daw ang gamiton? Magano dito.